The water was rising faster than Olivia could bail it out, and she knew with grim certainty that she was going to die in this river crossing. The wagon wheels had hit a soft patch in the riverbed, and now the current was dragging her father's old supply wagon deeper into the muddy water. Her father, rest his soul, had been dead 3 months now, and Olivia Chambers had been trying to make it to her aunt's ranch near Casper since the funeral. Wyoming Territory in the summer of 1873 was unforgiving to a woman traveling alone, but she had sold everything back in Missouri except what she could fit in this wagon. Now even that was going to be taken from her. The horse screamed as the harness pulled tight, the poor animal struggling against the weight of the sinking wagon. Olivia made the split-second decision to cut the horse free rather than let it drown with her. She grabbed her father's knife from her belt and sawed through the leather straps, watching the mare swim frantically toward the far bank. At least one of them would survive this disaster. Cold water rushed over the wagon seat, soaking through her traveling dress. Olivia grabbed onto the wooden frame, but her fingers were already numb from the mountain runoff. The current was stronger than it looked from the bank, and she could feel the wagon shifting, tilting. She tried to remember how to swim, but her skirts were already tangled around her legs, heavy as iron chains. Then she heard hoofbeats, loud and urgent, coming from upstream. Olivia looked up through the water streaming down her face to see a rider plunging his horse into the river without hesitation. The man was tall in the saddle, his hat pulled low, and he was coming straight for her like the current was nothing more than a mild inconvenience. "Grab my arm," he shouted over the roar of the water. Olivia reached out desperately as his horse came alongside the wagon. His hand locked around her wrist with an iron grip, and she felt herself being pulled from the sinking wagon just as it gave a final lurch and disappeared beneath the muddy water. Her feet left the wagon bed, and for a terrifying moment, she was suspended between the drowning depths and the safety of his horse. With strength that seemed impossible, the man hauled her up across his saddle, his arm wrapped securely around her waist. Olivia coughed up river water, clutching at his shirt as his horse turned and began the powerful swim back to shore. She could feel the animal's muscles working beneath them, could hear the man's steady voice encouraging his mount with calm words. When they reached the bank, the horse scrambled up the muddy slope, and the man eased them both down onto solid ground. Olivia collapsed onto her hands and knees, coughing violently as she expelled water from her lungs. She was dimly aware of the man kneeling beside her, his hand steady on her back. "Easy now. Get it all out. You are all right. You are safe." His voice was deep and reassuring, with a hint of a Texas drawl that spoke of places far south of this Wyoming river. Olivia finally caught her breath enough to look up at him properly. He was young, probably no more than 25 or 26, with sun-darkened skin and serious dark eyes that studied her with concern. His black hair was wet from the river, plastered against his forehead beneath his dripping hat. "My wagon," Olivia managed to say, her voice hoarse. "Everything I owned. Better than your life," he said simply. "Can you stand?" With his help, Olivia got to her feet, though her legs felt weak as water. She looked down at herself and realized what a sight she must be, soaked to the bone, her dark blonde hair hanging in wet ropes down her back. She was 22 years old and had just lost everything for the second time in 3 months. "I am Ethan Rivers," the man said, picking up his hat and wringing water from it. "My ranch is about 5 miles west of here. You need to get warm and dry before you catch your death." "I cannot impose," Olivia said automatically, though her teeth were already starting to chatter. Ethan gave her a look that was both kind and practical. "Madam, you just lost your wagon in the Sweetwater River." You are soaked through, you have no supplies, and the nearest town is Shoshone City, which is a good 15 miles east. I am not leaving you here to die of exposure because you are worried about propriety." When he put it that way, Olivia had to admit he was right. She nodded, wrapping her arms around herself. "Thank you, Mr. Rivers. I am Olivia Chambers." "Well, Miss Chambers, let us get you onto my horse before you freeze. Can you ride?" "Yes, my father taught me." The mention of her father made her throat tight, but she swallowed hard against the emotion. There would be time for tears later. Ethan's horse was a sturdy buckskin gelding that stood patiently while he helped Olivia into the saddle. He swung up behind her, his arm coming around her waist again to hold her steady. It was improper, but Olivia was too cold and exhausted to care. She let herself lean back against his chest, grateful for the solid warmth of him. They rode west across the rolling prairie, the afternoon sun beating down on them. Despite the heat, Olivia could not stop shivering. Her wet dress clung to her skin, and she felt chilled to her very bones. Ethan did not speak much during the ride, but his presence was oddly comforting. Every so often she felt him adjust his grip on her, making sure she did not slide from the saddle. After what felt like hours but was probably less than one, they crested a rise, and Olivia saw the ranch spread out below them. It was a modest operation, with a sturdy log house, a large barn, and several corrals containing horses. The land around it was good grazing territory, and she could see cattle dotting the distant hills. "It is not much," Ethan said, and Olivia could hear something almost apologetic in his voice. "But it is home. It looks wonderful," Olivia said honestly. After nearly drowning, anywhere with 4 walls and a roof looked like paradise. As they rode into the yard, a lean older man with graying hair emerged from the barn. His weathered face creased with concern when he saw them. "Ethan." "What happened?" "Found this lady drowning in the Sweetwater Walt," Ethan said, dismounting and then helping Olivia down. Her legs nearly buckled, but he kept a supporting hand under her elbow. "Her wagon went under. She needs warm clothes and a place to recover." Walt hurried over, his blue eyes kind as he looked at Olivia. "Poor girl. You look half drowned. Let us get you inside. I will fetch some of my late wife's things. They have been packed away, but they will fit you better than anything we got." Olivia wanted to protest, but she was too tired and cold. She let Ethan guide her into the house, which was surprisingly well kept for a bachelor's home. The main room had a large fireplace, a sturdy table with chairs, and simple but comfortable furniture. Everything was neat and clean, showing that the men who lived here took pride in their home. "Sit by the fire," Ethan instructed, steering her toward a chair near the hearth. He quickly built up the fire until it was roaring, and blessed heat began to seep into Olivia's frozen limbs. Walt returned with an armful of clothing. "These were my Ruth's. She passed 2 years back, but she would have wanted someone to get use from them. There is a room just through that door where you can change. Take your time, miss." "Thank you," Olivia whispered, accepting the clothes. "Both of you. I do not know how I can ever repay your kindness." "No need for talk of repayment," Ethan said firmly. "Go get dry. We will have some hot food ready when you come out." The room Walt had indicated was small but comfortable, with a narrow bed covered in a cheerful quilt and a washstand in the corner. Olivia closed the door and peeled off her sodden dress with shaking fingers. Her undergarments were just as wet, and she stripped down completely before using a towel from the washstand to dry herself as best she could. Ruth's clothes were simple but well made. There was a cotton chemise, petticoats, and a practical brown dress that buttoned up the front. The woman had been slightly shorter than Olivia, but about the same build, and the clothes fit reasonably well. There was even a brush on the washstand, and Olivia worked it through her tangled hair, trying to restore some order to her appearance. When she finally emerged from the room, she found Ethan and Walt at the table. The smell of coffee and bacon filled the air, making Olivia's stomach growl. She realized she had not eaten since early that morning, before attempting the river crossing that had nearly killed her. "Sit down, Miss Chambers," Walt said, pulling out a chair for her. "You need food in you." Olivia sat gratefully, accepting the plate Ethan handed her. There was bacon, beans, and fresh bread, simple fare, but it tasted better than anything she could remember. She ate slowly, conscious of the two men watching her with concern. "Where were you heading?" Ethan asked after she had eaten enough to take the edge off her hunger. "My aunt's ranch near Casper," Olivia explained. "My father died 3 months ago back in Missouri. I sold our farm and was traveling to live with her. She is my only living relative." "That is a long journey for a woman alone," Walt observed, not unkindly. "Dangerous, too, as you found out today. I know, but I had no choice. There was nothing left for me in Missouri, and Aunt Margaret wrote that she could use the help on her ranch. I thought I could make it if I was careful." Olivia looked down at her plate. "I should have hired a guide, but I used most of the money from the farm to pay my father's debts. I thought I could manage on my own." "You nearly made it," Ethan said quietly. "The Sweetwater is tricky this time of year. Even experienced travelers have trouble with that crossing." Olivia looked up at him, really seeing him for the first time now that she was warm and fed. He had changed into dry clothes as well, and she could see that he was indeed a young man, probably not much older than herself. But there was a maturity in his eyes that spoke of hard experience. He had strong features, a straight nose and firm jaw, and his dark eyes were direct and honest. "I still do not understand how you happened to be there," Olivia said. "If you had come along 5 minutes later—" "I was checking fence line along the river," Ethan explained. "Heard your horse screaming and rode to see what the trouble was. Lucky timing, I guess." "The Lord's providence," Walt added firmly. "Things happen for a reason." They fell into silence for a moment, and Olivia felt the full weight of her situation settling over her. She was alive, which was a blessing, but she had lost everything. The wagon, her few possessions, the little bit of money she had sewn into her traveling bag. She had nothing but the borrowed clothes on her back. "What will you do?" Ethan asked, as if reading her thoughts. Olivia tried to think. "I suppose I will have to get word to my aunt. Perhaps she can send someone to fetch me, or send money for a stage coach, though I do not know how long that might take." The thought of imposing on these kind strangers for days or even weeks made her uncomfortable. "You will stay here until you are recovered, and we can figure out the best way to get you to Casper," Ethan said decisively. "We have the room, and Walt is a good enough cook that you will not starve." "I cannot ask you to do that," Olivia protested, though part of her was desperate to accept. "Where else could she go? You are not asking, I am offering." Ethan's tone left no room for argument. "Besides, Walt could use some company besides my ugly face all the time." Walt snorted. "Speak for yourself, boy, but the lady is welcome to stay as long as she needs." Olivia felt tears prick her eyes at their generosity. "Thank you, truly. I will find a way to repay you both, I promise." "We will talk about that when you are rested," Ethan said. "For now, you look dead on your feet. Why do you not lie down for a while? That room is yours as long as you need it." Olivia did not have the strength to argue. The emotional and physical toll of the day was catching up with her, and her eyes felt heavy. She excused herself and returned to the small room, lying down on the bed without even removing Ruth's dress. The last thing she remembered was the sound of the men's low voices in the other room, discussing something about cattle, before exhaustion claimed her. when Olivia woke. The room was dark except for a sliver of moonlight coming through the small window. She lay still for a moment, disoriented before memory came flooding back. The river, the drowning wagon, Ethan pulling her to safety. She sat up slowly, her body aching from the ordeal but no longer chilled to the bone. She opened the door quietly and found the main room empty except for Ethan, who sat at the table with papers spread before him, working by lamplight. He looked up when he heard her. "How are you feeling?" he asked, setting down his pencil. "Better. What time is it? Near midnight." "You slept about 6 hours. Are you hungry? There is stew still warm on the stove." Olivia realized she was hungry again. "I do not want to be a bother. If you were a bother, I would not have offered." There was the hint of amusement in Ethan's voice. "Sit down, I will get you some." She sat at the table while he ladled stew into a bowl. The movements were practiced, and Olivia realized he must do this often, taking care of himself and Walt. When he set the bowl before her, their fingers brushed briefly, and Olivia felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. "What are you working on?" she asked, trying to distract herself from the strange awareness of him. "Ranch accounts, trying to figure out if we can afford to buy more breeding stock this year." He sat back down across from her. "It is not exciting, but it is necessary." "You own this ranch." "I do. Bought it 3 years ago with money I saved working cattle drives from Texas. Walt was the previous owner's foreman. He stayed on to help me learn the ropes, and now we are partners of sorts. He owns a share in the cattle." "That is impressive, owning your own ranch so young." Olivia ate her stew, enjoying the rich flavor. Whoever had made it knew their way around a kitchen. "I got lucky. The previous owner needed to sell quickly and I had enough for a down payment. I am still paying off the bank, but we are making it work." Ethan paused. "What about you? What were you planning to do at your aunt's ranch? Help her run it, I suppose. She is getting older and she wrote that she struggles to keep up with everything. I grew up on a farm, so I know hard work. I can cook, clean, handle horses, even work cattle if needed. My father made sure I could do everything necessary to survive." He sounds like a wise man. He was. Olivia felt the familiar ache of loss. "He got sick last winter, pneumonia. He fought it for weeks, but in the end his heart just gave out. The doctor said it was weakened from the illness." "I am sorry. Losing family is never easy." There was something in Ethan's tone that made Olivia look at him more closely. "You have lost people too. My parents and younger sister. Comanche raid when I was 15. I was out with the cattle and came back to find our homestead burned, them dead." He said it matter-of-factly, but Olivia could see the old pain in his eyes. "That was in Texas, down near San Antonio. I joined a cattle drive north after that, figured there was nothing left for me there." "I am so sorry, Ethan. It was a long time ago. You learned to live with it." He gathered up his papers. "You should get more rest. Tomorrow we will ride into Shoshone City and send a telegram to your aunt. Can I go with you? I would like to see the town, know where I am. If you are up for the ride, sure. It is about 15 miles east. We will leave after breakfast." Olivia finished her stew and carried the bowl to the wash bucket. "Thank you again, Ethan, for everything. You saved my life today." He looked at her for a long moment, his dark eyes unreadable in the lamplight. "I am glad I was there," he said simply. "Sleep well, Olivia." She returned to her room, noticing that he had used her first name without the formal miss. Something about that pleased her, though she could not say exactly why. She lay down again, and this time her sleep was deeper, untroubled by dreams of drowning. Morning came with the sound of roosters and the smell of coffee. Olivia dressed quickly in Ruth's clothes again and braided her hair, wishing she had pins to put it up properly. When she emerged, both men were already at the table, and Walt was serving up eggs and biscuits. "Morning, Miss Chambers," Walt said cheerfully. "I trust you slept better, much better, thank you, and please call me Olivia. After everything you have done for me, formality seems silly." "Then you must call me Walt." He set a plate before her. "Ethan tells me you two are riding into town today." "To send a telegram to my aunt," Olivia confirmed, sitting down. "I hope she will not be too worried. She was expecting me last week." "With luck, she will have already sent someone to look for you," Ethan said. "But either way, we will get word to her that you are safe." After breakfast, Ethan saddled 2 horses while Olivia helped Walt clean up. The older man worked quietly for a moment before speaking. "Ethan is a good man," he said suddenly. "One of the best I have known. He took me in when I had nowhere else to go, gave me a stake in this ranch when he did not have to. Whatever you need, he will make sure you are taken care of." "I can see that he is good," Olivia said softly. "You both are. I will never forget this kindness." Walt smiled. "Ruth always said the measure of a person is how they treat strangers. You seem like good people yourself, Olivia. I am glad you landed here." When Olivia walked outside, Ethan had a gentle bay mare saddled and waiting. He helped her mount, and Olivia was grateful to find the mare was indeed gentle, responding to the lightest touch on the reins. "Her name is Daisy," Ethan said, swinging onto his buckskin. "She is the calmest horse we have got. She will take care of you." They set out across the prairie at an easy pace. The morning was beautiful, with the sun climbing into a cloudless sky and the grass rippling in the breeze. Olivia found herself relaxing in the saddle, enjoying the ride despite everything that had happened. "Your ranch is beautiful," she said. "How much land do you have?" "About 1,500 acres, give or take. We run about 200 head of cattle plus the horses. It is not a big operation, but it is ours." Ethan pointed to a line of trees in the distance. "That is the Sweetwater over there where I found you. Our property runs along the river for about 2 miles. Do you have neighbors nearby?" "Few ranches scattered around. The Hendersons have a place about 10 miles north. Good people. Then there is the McCrae Ranch to the south, though old McCrae is a bit cantankerous. We mostly keep to ourselves out here." They rode in comfortable silence for a while before Ethan spoke again. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you not take the train? Would have been safer than traveling alone by wagon." Olivia sighed. "The train does not go all the way to Casper. I would have had to take it to a certain point and then hire transport anyway. I thought if I had my own wagon, I would have my belongings with me and save money on freight charges. It seemed logical at the time." She paused. "It was a foolish decision. Not foolish, just unlucky. You could not have known about that soft patch in the river. I should have scouted the crossing more carefully. My father always said to check your route twice before committing. I was in a hurry and careless." "Well, you survived. That is what matters." Ethan glanced at her. "And for what it is worth, I think you are brave. A lot of women would not have attempted that journey alone, money or no money." The compliment warmed her more than it should have. "Thank you, though I do not feel very brave right now. Bravery is not about not being scared. It is about doing what needs doing despite being scared. You strike me as someone who does what needs doing." They crested a rise and Shoshone City came into view. It was a typical frontier town, with a single main street lined with wooden buildings. Olivia could see a general store, a saloon, what looked like a doctor's office, and several other establishments. There were people moving about, wagons parked along the street, and the general bustle of a small but thriving community. "It is not much," Ethan said, echoing his words about his ranch. "But it has what we need. Telegraph office is at the far end, next to the land office." They rode down the main street, and Olivia was conscious of people staring. A woman riding into town with Ethan Rivers was apparently noteworthy. She kept her eyes forward, trying not to feel self-conscious in Ruth's old dress. Ethan dismounted outside the telegraph office and helped Olivia down. Inside, a thin man with spectacles looked up from his desk. "Ethan, good to see you. What can I do for you today?" "Morning, Tom. My friend here needs to send a telegram to Casper." Ethan gestured to Olivia. Tom pushed a piece of paper and pencil across the counter. "Write out your message and I will send it right away." Olivia composed a brief message to her aunt, explaining that she had had an accident but was safe and staying with friends, and asking what she should do next. Tom counted the words, named a price that made Olivia wince since she had no money, but Ethan paid without hesitation. "Should get a reply by tomorrow if your aunt responds right away," Tom said. "Where should I send it?" "Rivers Ranch," Ethan said. "I will check back tomorrow." They left the telegraph office and Ethan suggested they stop at the general store. "You need some things of your own. Clothes, toiletries, things like that." "Ethan, I cannot let you buy me anything else. You have already done so much. You cannot exactly go around in one dress for however long you are with us," he pointed out reasonably. "Besides, consider it a loan if it makes you feel better. You can pay me back when you are settled with your aunt." The general store was a treasure trove of goods, from bolts of fabric to canned foods to tools and equipment. The proprietor, a kindly woman named Mrs. Fletcher, listened to Ethan's brief explanation of Olivia's situation and immediately took charge. "You poor dear, losing everything like that. Come with me and we will get you sorted out properly." She led Olivia to the back of the store where ready-made clothing was displayed. There were two simple dresses, one in blue calico and one in green cotton that looked like they would fit. Mrs. Fletcher also added undergarments, a nightgown, a sturdy pair of boots, a brush and comb set, and various other necessities to the growing pile on the counter. "You will need a coat for the evenings," she declared, pulling down a brown wool jacket, "and a hat for riding. The sun is merciless this time of year." By the time she was finished, Olivia was both grateful and mortified by the expense. Ethan paid for everything without blinking, and Mrs. Fletcher packed it all into a neat bundle. "You take care of yourself, dear," the older woman said, patting Olivia's hand. "And you are in good hands with Ethan. He is one of the finest young men in these parts." Outside, Ethan tied the bundle to his saddle. "There is one more stop I want to make, if you do not mind." "Of course not." He led her down the street to a small building with a sign reading Dr. Mitchell. Ethan opened the door and ushered her inside, where a middle-aged man with graying beard looked up from his desk. "Ethan, what brings you here? Nothing wrong, I hope? Just want you to check over Miss Chambers here. She nearly drowned yesterday. She seems fine, but I would feel better if you gave her a once-over." The doctor, who introduced himself as Samuel Mitchell, was thorough but kind. He listened to her lungs, checked her eyes and reflexes, and asked detailed questions about how she felt. Finally, he pronounced her in good health. "You were lucky," he said. "No water in the lungs, no fever. Keep warm, eat well, and rest as much as you can for the next few days. You will be fine." As they left the doctor's office, Olivia turned to Ethan. "You did not have to do that. I feel fine." "I know. But sometimes things do not show up right away. My sister nearly drowned once when she was little, and she seemed fine until she developed pneumonia 2 days later. I just wanted to be sure." The mention of his sister who had died in the Comanche raid made Olivia's throat tight. She reached out without thinking and touched his arm. "Thank you for caring." He looked down at where her hand rested on his sleeve, and something shifted in his expression. "Come on. We should head back before Walt thinks we got lost." They rode back to the ranch in the afternoon heat, taking their time. Ethan pointed out landmarks, told her stories about the area, and Olivia found herself relaxing more and more in his presence. He was easy to talk to, with a dry sense of humor that caught her by surprise and made her laugh. When they arrived back at the ranch, Walt had dinner ready and waiting. Over beef stew and cornbread, Olivia told him about the trip to town and the telegram to her aunt. Walt nodded approvingly. "Good. She will be relieved to hear you are alive and well. In the meantime, you are welcome here." That night, Olivia changed into her new nightgown and lay in bed thinking about everything that had happened in the past 2 days. Her life had been completely upended, but somehow she felt more at peace than she had in months. There was something about this place, about these people, that made her feel safe and cared for. She thought about Ethan, about the way he had ridden into the river without hesitation to save a complete stranger, about his quiet competence and hidden kindness, about the way his eyes sometimes lingered on her when he thought she was not looking. A warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with the blankets. "This is foolish," she told herself. "You barely know him. You will be leaving for your aunt's ranch as soon as she sends word. There is no point in developing feelings for someone you will probably never see again." But her heart, it seemed, was not interested in logic. The next morning, Olivia insisted on helping with the ranch work. Walt tried to protest that she was a guest, but she was firm. "I cannot just sit around being useless while you two do all the work. Put me to use, please. I grew up on a farm. I know how to work." The men exchanged glances and finally agreed. Walt set her to feeding chickens, collecting eggs, and helping in the vegetable garden behind the house. It felt good to be doing something productive, to feel useful again. The garden was well tended, with neat rows of beans, squash, tomatoes, and herbs. "Ruth planted this garden," Walt told her as they worked. "I have tried to keep it up the way she did. She always said a good garden could see you through hard times. She was right. And you have done an excellent job. Everything looks healthy." They worked companionably until midday, when Ethan came riding in with news that several head of cattle had broken through a fence line and needed to be rounded up. "I will help," Olivia said immediately. Ethan looked doubtful. "It is hot work and we might be out for hours. I can ride and I can handle cattle. Let me help." After a moment, Ethan nodded. "All right, but you stay close to me, understood? Some of these cattle can be ornery." They saddled up, and Olivia found herself genuinely excited for the first time since her father's death. This was the kind of work she knew and loved, being outside and useful. They rode out to the broken fence, where about a dozen cattle had wandered through into open range. Ethan showed her how he wanted to work them, and they spent the next few hours gently herding the stubborn animals back toward the ranch. It was hot, dusty work, but Olivia loved every minute of it. She proved she could handle Daisy well, anticipating where the cattle would try to break and moving to head them off. "You are good at this," Ethan called to her after she neatly cut off a young bull that tried to make a break for freedom. "I told you I grew up on a farm." By the time they got all the cattle back and Ethan had mended the fence, the sun was setting. They rode back to the ranch tired and dusty but satisfied. Walt had dinner waiting and they ate like people who had earned their food. "You did well today," Ethan said to Olivia as they finished eating. "Better than some men I have hired to help with cattle. Thank you. It felt good to be useful again. I have felt so lost these past months, like I did not know who I was anymore without my father and the farm. Today reminded me." "You are a rancher," Ethan said simply. "Same as me and Walt. It is in your blood." The compliment warmed her and she smiled at him. Their eyes held for a moment longer than necessary, and Olivia felt that flutter in her chest again, stronger this time. Over the next few days, a routine developed. Olivia helped Walt with the garden, the chickens, and the cooking. She mended clothes, cleaned the house, and generally made herself as useful as possible. In the afternoons, she often rode out with Ethan to check fence lines, move cattle, or handle whatever needed doing on the ranch. She was good at the work, and Ethan seemed to genuinely enjoy her company. They talked as they rode, sharing stories about their lives, their dreams, their losses. Olivia learned that Ethan had been the oldest of 3 children, that he had loved his family fiercely, and their deaths had nearly destroyed him. He had spent years working cattle drives, saving every penny, driven by a need to build something permanent, something that could not be taken away. In turn, she told him about her childhood on the Missouri farm, about her mother who had died when Olivia was 12, about her father's slow decline after his wife's death, and how he had never quite been the same. She told him about the loneliness of being an only child, about her dreams of someday having a large family of her own. "I always wanted brothers and sisters," she confessed one afternoon as they watered their horses by a creek. "The farm was so quiet with just me and Pa. I used to imagine what it would be like to have a house full of children, all that noise and life." "You will have that someday," Ethan said. "You will make a good mother." "How do you know?" "I can tell. You are patient and kind, but firm when you need to be. I have watched you with the animals. You will be the same with children." His words touched her deeply. "What about you? Do you want a family?" Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "I used to think I did not deserve one. After my family died, I felt guilty for surviving when they did not. It seemed wrong to imagine being happy when they never got that chance." He paused. "But lately, I have been thinking differently. Maybe the best way to honor them is to build the life they would have wanted me to have. A family, a home, something lasting." "They would want you to be happy," Olivia said softly. "I am starting to believe that." He looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Especially since you showed up." Before Olivia could respond, before she could even process what his words might mean, they heard hoofbeats. They both turned to see Walt riding toward them at a gallop, waving something in his hand. "Telegram came," he shouted as he approached. "Reply from your aunt." Olivia's heart sank and soared at the same time. This was what she had been waiting for, news from her aunt about what to do next. But it also meant her time at the ranch, her time with Ethan, was coming to an end. Walt handed her the telegram and she read it with shaking hands. The message was brief but clear. Her aunt was sorry to hear about the accident, but there was a problem. In the weeks since her original letter, Aunt Margaret had fallen and broken her hip. She was staying with friends in Casper while she recovered and would not be able to take Olivia in after all. She suggested Olivia try to find work in Shoshone City or return to Missouri. Olivia read the telegram twice, unable to believe it. After everything, after losing her father and the farm and nearly drowning, after finally thinking she had a destination and a purpose, that door was now closed too. "What does it say?" Ethan asked gently. Wordlessly, Olivia handed him the telegram. He read it, his jaw tightening. "I am sorry, Olivia. I do not understand. What am I supposed to do now?" Her voice sounded small and lost even to her own ears. "I have no family, no money, nowhere to go." "You have here," Walt said firmly. "You have got a place right here for as long as you need it. I cannot stay here indefinitely. You have both been so kind, but I cannot just impose on you forever. I need to figure something out." But even as she said it, Olivia felt desperation rising in her throat. What could she do? Return to Missouri where she had nothing. Try to find work in Shoshone City, a stranger with no references. The future stretched before her, blank and terrifying. "Let us head back," Ethan said quietly. "We will figure something out. I promise you, Olivia, we will figure this out." That night, Olivia barely touched her dinner. She excused herself early and lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying not to cry. She had been so sure that her aunt would take her in, that she would have a home and a purpose. Now she had neither. There was a soft knock on her door. "Olivia." "Can I come in?" It was Ethan. She sat up, wiping her eyes. "Yes." He opened the door and stood in the doorway, his hat in his hands. "I have been thinking about your situation." "There is not much to think about. I need to find work somewhere, somehow support myself. Maybe I can find a position as a housekeeper or a cook in town." "There is another option." Ethan stepped into the room but stayed near the door, respecting her space. "I know this is sudden and you can say no, but I want you to hear me out." "What are you talking about?" He took a deep breath. "Marry me." Olivia stared at him, certain she had misheard. "What? Marry me? I know we have only known each other a few days, but I feel like I know you. These past days working with you, talking with you, I have been happier than I have been in years. You fit here, Olivia. You fit on this ranch, you fit in this life. And I think maybe you fit with me." "Ethan, that is insane. We barely know each other." "I know enough. I know you are brave and strong and kind. I know you work hard and do not complain. I know you make me laugh and make me think about the future instead of just getting through each day. I know that when I think about you leaving, it feels wrong." Olivia stood up, her heart pounding. "But you do not love me, and I do not love you. How can you talk about marriage?" "Maybe not yet," Ethan admitted. "But I think we could. I care about you, Olivia. I want you to be safe and happy. And I think maybe you care about me too, at least a little." She could not deny it. In just a few days, Ethan Rivers had become important to her in a way she did not fully understand. When she was with him, the world felt right. When she thought about leaving, her chest ached. Even if that is true, marriage is a big step. It is forever. "I know. And I am not saying this lightly, but think about it practically. You need a home and security. I can give you that. The ranch needs a woman's touch, needs someone to help run it properly. We work well together. We could build something good here together. But what about love? What about romance? Do you not want to marry someone you are head over heels for?" Ethan moved closer, his eyes intense. "My parents had an arranged marriage. They met twice before their wedding. But they built a good life together, and by the end, they loved each other fiercely. Love can grow, Olivia. Sometimes the best marriages start with friendship and respect rather than wild passion." Olivia wanted to argue, but she could not deny the logic of what he was saying. She had nowhere else to go, no other prospects. And if she was honest with herself, the thought of leaving Ethan and Walt, of leaving this ranch that had started to feel like home, was painful. "I do not know what to say." "Say you will think about it. That is all I ask. You do not have to decide tonight." He reached out and gently took her hand. "But Olivia, I want you to know, if you say yes, I will do everything in my power to make you happy. I will be a good husband to you, I promise." His hand was warm and calloused around hers, strong and steady. Olivia looked up into his earnest face and felt her resolve wavering. "I will think about it," she whispered. "That is all I can ask." He squeezed her hand gently and then released it. "Good night, Olivia." After he left, Olivia sat on the bed, her mind whirling. Marriage to Ethan Rivers. It was crazy. It was impractical. It was probably foolish. But it was also, she had to admit, tempting. She thought about the past few days, about how comfortable she had felt here, how right it had felt to work alongside Ethan and Walt. She thought about Ethan's kindness, his strength, his quiet humor. She thought about the way her heart sped up when he was near, the way she found herself watching for him when he was out on the range. Was that love? Or just gratitude and attraction? Did it matter? Ethan was right that marriage based on friendship and respect could grow into something deeper. And he was also right that she needed security, needed a home. This could be her home if she was brave enough to take the chance. Olivia barely slept that night, turning the question over and over in her mind. By morning, she still had not decided, but she knew she needed more information. At breakfast, she cornered Walt while Ethan was out doing morning chores. "Did Ethan talk to you about his proposal?" Walt nodded. "He did. Wanted to make sure I was all right with it since I live here too." "And are you?" "All right with it, I mean. More than all right. I think it is a fine idea." Walt poured her coffee. "Ethan is a good man, Olivia. I know this seems sudden, but in frontier life, sometimes you have to make quick decisions. And I have seen the way he looks at you. He cares for you, truly." "How does he look at me?" Walt smiled. "Like you are the answer to a question he did not know he was asking. Like you matter." He paused. "Ruth and I only courted for 2 weeks before we married. Everyone said we were crazy, that it would never work. But we had 35 good years together before she passed. Sometimes you just know, even if it does not make sense. But what if I am making a mistake? What if he regrets it later? What if you are not and he does not?" Walt countered. "You can spend your whole life being afraid of what might go wrong, or you can take a chance on what might go right. Only you can decide which risk is worth taking." When Ethan came in for breakfast, Olivia was quiet, watching him. He did not push, did not mention his proposal, just ate his eggs and talked with Walt about which pasture they should move the cattle to next. But she caught him glancing at her when he thought she was not looking, and there was something vulnerable in those glances that touched her heart. After breakfast, she followed him outside as he headed to the barn. "Ethan, wait." He turned, his expression carefully neutral. "Yes. I have been thinking about what you said, and I have questions." "All right. If I say yes, what would you expect from me? As your wife, I mean." Ethan leaned against the barn wall, considering. "I would expect you to help run the ranch, same as you have been doing. To be my partner in making this place succeed. I would expect honesty between us and loyalty. As for, well, marital duties, I would not rush you. We could take things as slow as you need. And if it does not work, if we find we cannot stand each other, then we will figure it out." "But I do not think that is going to happen, Olivia, do you?" She thought about it honestly. "No, I do not think so either. We seem to get along well." "So what is really holding you back?" Olivia struggled to put it into words. "I always imagined I would marry for love. That I would have what my parents had before my mother died. They were so happy together, so devoted. This feels like settling for less." Ethan pushed off from the wall and came closer. "Or maybe it is just different. Not less, just different. I am not promising you wild romance and poetry, Olivia. I am promising you a home, security, partnership, and respect. And maybe, if we are lucky, love will grow from that. Is not that worth something?" "It is worth a lot," she admitted. "Then what do you say? Will you marry me, Olivia Chambers? Will you let me give you my name and my home? Will you be my partner and my wife?" Olivia looked into his dark, earnest eyes and felt something settle in her chest. This was right. She did not know how she knew, but she did. Ethan Rivers was a good man offering her a good life. She would be a fool to refuse. "Yes," she said softly. "Yes, I will marry you." The smile that broke across Ethan's face was like the sun coming out. He grabbed her hands, squeezing them tightly. "You will not regret this. I promise you, Olivia, I will make you happy. I will try to do the same for you." They stood there for a moment, holding hands, and then Ethan did something unexpected. He leaned down and kissed her forehead, gentle and sweet. "Thank you for trusting me." Walt was delighted when they told him the news. "Wonderful, this is just wonderful. When do you want to do it?" "Soon as possible," Ethan said. "There is a circuit preacher who comes through Shoshone City once a month. He should be there in about 3 days. We could get married then if that works for you, Olivia. 3 days." It was terrifyingly soon, but Olivia found herself nodding. "That works." "Then I will ride into town tomorrow and make arrangements with the preacher. We will need witnesses. I will ask the Hendersons if they can come." The next few days passed in a blur. Ethan rode to the Henderson ranch and returned with the news that the whole family was thrilled and would be honored to attend the wedding. Mrs. Henderson, a cheerful woman named Alice, even insisted on making a cake for the occasion. Olivia spent the time preparing for her new role as mistress of the ranch house. She cleaned every corner of the house until it shone, rearranged things to make them more efficient, and planned meals for the week. She altered one of her new dresses, the blue calico, to make it more special for the wedding. It was not a fancy wedding gown, but it was pretty and clean, and it would have to do. She felt surprisingly calm about the whole thing. There was something almost dreamlike about it all, like she was watching someone else's life unfold. But whenever Ethan was near, whenever he smiled at her or said something kind, the reality of it hit her, and her stomach would flutter with nervous anticipation. On the morning of the wedding, Olivia woke early. She bathed carefully, washing her hair and letting it dry in the sun. She put on her blue dress and pinned her hair up with the few pins Mrs. Fletcher had included in her purchases. When she looked at herself in the small mirror, she saw a woman she barely recognized. She looked older somehow, more sure of herself. Walt knocked on her door. "Ready, Olivia, as I will ever be." They rode into Shoshone City together, all three of them dressed in their best. Ethan wore a clean white shirt and a string tie, his dark hair neatly combed. He looked handsome and nervous, which Olivia found oddly endearing. The Hendersons were waiting at the church, a small building at the edge of town. There was John Henderson, a weathered rancher about Walt's age, his wife Alice and their 3 sons, young men in their late teens and early 20s. They greeted Olivia warmly, congratulating her and making her feel welcome. The preacher, a thin man with kind eyes named Reverend Thomas, met with them briefly before the ceremony. He asked if they were sure about this decision, and both Ethan and Olivia assured him they were. He seemed satisfied and led them into the church. The ceremony was simple and brief. Olivia stood beside Ethan at the front of the little church, aware of Walt and the Hendersons watching from the pews. Reverend Thomas spoke about the sanctity of marriage, about duty and faith and building a life together. Then it was time for the vows. "Do you, Ethan Rivers, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" "I do." Ethan's voice was firm and clear. "And do you, Olivia Chambers, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" Olivia looked into Ethan's eyes and saw hope and promise there. "I do." "Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Ethan leaned down and kissed her, gentle and brief but sweet. It was Olivia's first real kiss, and her heart hammered in her chest. When they pulled apart, he was smiling. "Hello, Mrs. Rivers." "Hello, Mr. Rivers." The Hendersons congratulated them enthusiastically. Alice produced the promised cake, and they all shared slices on the church steps. John Henderson gave Ethan a bottle of whiskey for celebrating, and his sons teased about giving them a proper charivari later, though Alice swatted them and said to leave the newlyweds alone. Eventually, it was time to head back to the ranch. Olivia rode beside her husband, still getting used to the sound of that word in her mind. Husband. She was married. She was Olivia Rivers now, not Olivia Chambers. It was strange and wonderful and terrifying all at once. When they reached the ranch, Walt announced he was going to stay in the barn for the night to give them privacy. Olivia started to protest, but he waved her off. You two need time to yourselves. I will be fine. There is a perfectly good cot out there, and I have slept in worse places." He disappeared before either of them could argue further, leaving Ethan and Olivia alone in the house. The silence felt heavy with expectation. "Are you hungry?" Ethan asked. "We could have dinner." "That sounds good." They worked together to prepare a simple meal, the familiar routine helping to ease the awkwardness. They talked about the ceremony, about the Hendersons, about anything except what was supposed to happen now. Finally, after they had eaten and cleaned up, they could not avoid it any longer. "Olivia," Ethan said gently, "I meant what I said. We do not have to rush anything. If you want to sleep in your own room tonight, that is fine. I will not push you." Part of Olivia was relieved by the offer. But another part, the part that had agreed to this marriage, knew that they could not put it off forever. They were husband and wife now. This was part of what that meant. "No," she said softly. "I am your wife. I want to be your wife properly." "Are you sure?" "I am sure." Ethan took her hand and led her to his room, which she had never been in before. It was simple and neat, with a large bed covered in a quilt and a washstand in the corner. He lit the lamp, and in the soft light they looked at each other. "I have never," Olivia started, then stopped, embarrassed. "I know. Neither have I, if I am being honest. Well, not exactly like this, with someone who matters." Ethan reached up and gently touched her face. "We will figure it out together, all right," and they did. It was awkward at first, both of them nervous and uncertain. But Ethan was patient and gentle, and gradually Olivia relaxed. There was tenderness in his touch, care in the way he held her. Afterward, lying in his arms with her head on his chest, Olivia felt a peace she had not known in years. "Are you all right?" Ethan asked softly, his hand stroking her hair. "I am good, better than good," she paused. "Thank you for being gentle, always." He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "Sleep now, we have a lot of work ahead of us tomorrow." Olivia fell asleep in her husband's arms, feeling safe and cherished. Whatever happened next, wherever this marriage led, she knew she had made the right choice. Over the following weeks, Olivia settled fully into her role as Ethan's wife and partner on the ranch. She took over managing the household completely, freeing Walt to focus more on the outdoor work. She cooked hearty meals for the three of them, tended the garden, cared for the chickens, and kept the house clean and comfortable. But she also rode out with Ethan regularly, helping with the cattle and horses. He seemed to genuinely value her input, asking her opinion on ranch decisions and listening to her ideas. They worked well as a team, anticipating each other's movements and thoughts. At night, they shared his bed, and gradually their physical relationship deepened. Olivia found herself looking forward to those private moments, to the tenderness and passion they shared. Ethan was an attentive husband, always concerned with her comfort and pleasure. She also found herself falling in love with him, truly in love, in a way she had not expected. It was not the wild, sweeping passion of novels, but something deeper and more real. It was in the way he always poured her coffee first in the mornings, the way he made sure she had the softest blanket at night. It was in his quiet strength and his unexpected humor, in the way he listened to her and made her feel valued. One evening, about a month after the wedding, they sat on the porch watching the sunset after a long day of work. Ethan had his arm around her shoulders and Olivia leaned against him contentedly. "I have been thinking," Ethan said, "about expanding the ranch, maybe buying some of the land that borders ours to the north. What do you think?" "I think it is a good idea if we can afford it. More land means we could run more cattle." "That is what I was thinking. And with three of us working the ranch now, we could handle a bigger operation." He paused. "I am glad you are here, Olivia. This place feels different now, better. It feels like a real home. It feels like home to me too." Olivia turned to look up at him. "I want to tell you something." "What?" "I love you." The words came out in a rush, and Olivia felt her cheeks heat. "I know we did not marry for love, but I cannot help it. I love you, Ethan Rivers." The smile that spread across his face was brilliant. He pulled her close and kissed her, deep and sweet. "I love you too," he said when they finally broke apart. "I think I have been falling in love with you since the day I pulled you out of that river. You are everything I never knew I needed, Olivia." They sat there holding each other as the sun set, and Olivia felt a happiness so complete it almost frightened her. This was what she had wanted her whole life, this sense of belonging, of being loved and valued. She had found her home. As summer turned to fall, the ranch thrived under their combined efforts. They bought the land to the north, expanding their grazing territory. Walt continued to be an invaluable help and a good friend, and the three of them fell into an easy rhythm of work and companionship. Olivia also began to suspect that she might be pregnant. Her monthly courses had not come, and she felt different somehow, more tired than usual but also strangely energized. She waited another week to be sure before telling Ethan. She chose a quiet evening after dinner. Walt had gone to visit the Hendersons, leaving them alone in the house. Ethan was working on the ranch accounts at the table, and Olivia sat down across from him. "Ethan, I need to tell you something." He looked up, immediately alert to the serious tone in her voice. "What is it?" "Is something wrong?" "No, nothing is wrong. At least I hope you will not think so." She took a deep breath. "I think I am expecting a child." Ethan stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then suddenly he was around the table, pulling her up into his arms, laughing with delight. "Really? You are sure?" "Pretty sure. I have not had my courses and I feel different. We should probably have Dr. Mitchell confirm it, but yes, I think so." "This is wonderful, amazing." He kissed her, then pulled back to look at her with concern. "Are you happy about it? I know we have only been married a few months." "I am happy. Nervous, but happy. I want this baby, Ethan. I want our family." "So do I." He placed his hand gently over her stomach. "Our child." I can hardly believe it. The next day they rode into Shoshone City to see Dr. Mitchell. He confirmed what Olivia had suspected. She was indeed pregnant, probably about 6 weeks along, which meant the baby would arrive in the spring. "You are healthy and strong," the doctor told her. "Just take care of yourself, do not overwork, and everything should be fine. Come see me once a month so I can check on you." On the ride back, Ethan was clearly trying to hide his worry. "You heard the doctor. You cannot overwork. No more riding out with the cattle or heavy lifting." "Ethan, I am pregnant, not fragile. Women have been doing ranch work while pregnant since ranches existed." "I know, but I do not want you taking any chances. You and the baby are more important than any work that needs doing." Olivia was touched by his protectiveness, even if it was a bit excessive. They compromised. She would continue with her regular household duties and light ranch work, but nothing strenuous or dangerous. Ethan and Walt would handle everything else. Walt was thrilled by the news of the coming baby. "A child on this ranch. That is just what this place needs. Ruth and I always wanted children, but the Lord never blessed us that way. I am honored to be here for this." As Olivia's pregnancy progressed through fall and into winter, she marveled at the changes in her body and in her life. A year ago, she had been in Missouri, nursing her dying father and wondering what would become of her. Now she was married to a good man, living on a beautiful ranch and carrying their child. Life had a strange way of working out. Winter in Wyoming was harsh, but the house was snug and well built. They spent the long evenings by the fire, with Walt telling stories of his younger days and Ethan working on plans for expanding the ranch even more. Olivia sewed baby clothes and knitted tiny blankets, preparing for the new arrival. At Christmas, the Hendersons invited them for dinner. It was a warm, joyful gathering, with too much food and lots of laughter. Alice Henderson fussed over Olivia, offering advice about pregnancy and childbirth. The Henderson sons, whom Olivia had come to know better over the past months, teased Ethan about becoming a father. "You will be walking the floor at midnight with a screaming baby," the eldest, Tom Henderson, said with a grin. "No more peaceful nights for you." "I do not care," Ethan said, his hand resting on Olivia's rounded belly. "It will be worth it." As winter slowly gave way to spring, Olivia grew larger and more uncomfortable, but she also glowed with health and happiness. Ethan was attentive to the point of being overprotective, constantly asking if she needed anything, if she was comfortable, if she should be resting. "I am fine," she assured him for the 100th time. "Stop hovering." "I cannot help it. You are carrying our child. That is the most important thing in the world." In early April, Olivia's pain started just before dawn. She woke Ethan, trying to stay calm even though she was frightened. Ethan immediately sent Walt racing to town to fetch Dr. Mitchell and Alice Henderson, who had offered to help with the birth. The labor was long and difficult. Olivia had heard women talk about childbirth, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of it. The pain was intense, wave after wave of it, and there were moments when she thought she could not endure. But Ethan stayed with her the whole time, holding her hand, wiping her face with a cool cloth, telling her how strong she was, how proud he was of her. Dr. Mitchell and Alice arrived and took charge. Alice had delivered several babies and knew what she was doing. She was brisk but kind, encouraging Olivia through each contraction. Finally, after hours of labor, their son was born. Olivia heard his first cry and felt tears of relief and joy streaming down her face. Dr. Mitchell cleaned the baby and wrapped him in a blanket before placing him in Olivia's arms. "A healthy boy," he announced. "Good lungs on him, too." Olivia looked down at her son, at his tiny red face and dark hair, and fell instantly in love. Ethan leaned over them both, his own eyes wet with tears. "He is perfect," Ethan whispered. "You are perfect. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you for our son." They named him James after Olivia's father, and he became the center of their world. Olivia had never known she could love someone so much, so fiercely. Every smile, every gurgle, every tiny milestone felt like a miracle. Ethan was a devoted father. Despite his initial nervousness, he took to it naturally. He walked James when he cried at night, changed his nappies without complaint, and spent hours just holding his son and marveling at him. Walt, too, was besotted with the baby. "He is going to be a fine rancher someday," he declared, bouncing James gently. "I can tell already. He has the look of someone who will know his way around cattle and horses." As James grew from a newborn to an infant, the ranch continued to prosper. They hired 2 hands to help with the increased work, young men from Shoshone City who proved reliable and hardworking. With the extra help, Ethan was able to spend more time with his family, which made Olivia happy. On their first wedding anniversary, Ethan surprised Olivia with a gift. It was a locket on a delicate gold chain. Inside were 2 tiny photographs, one of Ethan and one of James. "So you can always carry us with you," he said, fastening it around her neck. Olivia touched the locket, tears in her eyes. "It is beautiful, but you did not have to get me anything." "I wanted to. This past year has been the best of my life, Olivia. You and James, you are my whole world. I wanted you to know that." "I love you," Olivia said, kissing him. "I love our life together. I love our family." "Sometimes I think about that day in the river, and I cannot believe how everything turned out. If you had not been there, if you had not saved me. But I was there, and I will always be here. That is a promise." He pulled her close. "We are going to grow old together on this ranch, you and me." We are going to watch our children and grandchildren grow up here. This is our legacy, Olivia, what we are building together. Over the next few years, that vision became reality. Olivia gave birth to 2 more children, a daughter named Ruth after Walt's late wife, and then another son they called William. The house rang with children's laughter and the patter of small feet. The ranch grew and prospered, becoming one of the most successful operations in the area. Walt remained with them, an honored member of the family and a beloved grandfather figure to the children. He taught young James to ride, showed Ruth how to collect eggs without scaring the chickens, and bounced little William on his knee while telling exaggerated stories about his younger days. The Hendersons remained good friends, and their families celebrated holidays and milestones together. Olivia developed friendships with other ranch wives in the area, creating a sense of community that enriched all their lives. When James was 5, Olivia found herself pregnant again, surprised but pleased. This time she delivered twin boys, Samuel and Thomas, much to everyone's amazement. The house became even more chaotic and joyful with 5 children ranging in age from newborn to 6. "We might need to build an addition," Ethan joked one evening as the children played on the floor around them. "We are running out of room." "That is not a bad idea," Olivia said, smiling as she watched Ruth carefully help Samuel with a wooden toy. "Our family seems to keep growing." "I am not complaining, though I am wondering if we might take a break from adding to it for a little while." He pulled her onto his lap, careful not to disturb the nursing Thomas. "I love our children, but I love their mother too. I want to make sure you are not wearing yourself out." "I am fine. Tired, but happy. This is the life I always wanted, Ethan. A house full of children and love. You gave me that. We gave it to each other." As the years passed, Olivia watched her children grow. James became a serious boy who loved working with his father on the ranch. Ruth was gentle and nurturing, always caring for her younger brothers. William was full of energy and mischief, keeping everyone on their toes. The twins, Samuel and Thomas, were inseparable and shared their own secret language that no one else could understand. Walt aged gracefully, his hair turning white but his spirit remaining youthful. He was a fixture in the children's lives, and they adored him. When he peacefully passed away in his sleep at the age of 78, the entire family mourned him deeply. They buried him on a hill overlooking the ranch, under a large oak tree where he had often liked to sit. "He was a good man," Ethan said at the simple funeral, his arm around Olivia. "He helped me build this ranch and this life. I will never forget what he did for me." "For us," Olivia corrected gently. "He loved all of us." The children left flowers on Walt's grave every week, and Olivia made sure to tell them stories about him so they would always remember. As Ethan and Olivia entered their 30s and then their 40s, they watched their children begin their own lives. James, at 20, married a sweet girl named Elizabeth from a neighboring ranch. Ruth, at 18, fell in love with a young doctor who had set up practice in Shoshone City. William decided he wanted to join the army, much to his parents' worry but pride. The twins, now 16, were already showing signs of being fine ranchers themselves. "We are getting old," Olivia said one evening, sitting on the porch with Ethan much as they had done countless times over the years. Her hair had threads of silver now, and there were lines around her eyes, but Ethan thought she was more beautiful than ever. "We are getting experienced," Ethan corrected. "There is a difference. We have grandchildren now. That definitely counts as old." James and Elizabeth had blessed them with 2 grandchildren so far, another James and a little girl named Olivia. Watching her children become parents themselves filled Olivia with a joy she could hardly express. "Maybe old is not so bad," Ethan conceded. "Not when it means getting to see all this." Our children grown and happy, our grandchildren healthy, the ranch successful, you still by my side after all these years." He took her hand. "Do you ever regret it, saying yes to me that day?" "Never. Not once. You gave me everything I ever wanted, Ethan. You saved my life in more ways than one." "You saved mine too. Before you came, I was just existing, just going through the motions. You made me live again. You made me happy." He raised her hand to his lips and kissed it. "I would pull you out of that river 1,000 times over if it meant having this life with you." They sat together as the sun set over their land, over the home they had built together, over the legacy they were leaving their children. The ranch stretched out before them, prosperous and beautiful, a testament to their hard work and love. Inside the house, they could hear their youngest sons laughing about something, the sound of family and home. Soon James and Elizabeth would arrive with the grandchildren for Sunday dinner, a tradition Olivia had started years ago. The house would fill with noise and chaos and love, exactly as it should be. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked. "Everything. Nothing. Just how blessed we are." Olivia leaned her head on his shoulder. "That river could have been the end of my story. Instead, it was the beginning. The beginning of everything good in my life. For me too." As darkness fell and stars began to appear in the vast Wyoming sky, they went inside together, hand in hand, ready for another evening with their family. The years had been kind to them, full of joy and sorrow, triumph and challenge, but always, always full of love. The ranch that Ethan Rivers had built alone had become a home, a true home, because Olivia had come into his life. And the frightened young woman who had nearly drowned in the Sweetwater River had found not just safety, but purpose, belonging, and a love that would last a lifetime. They had built something lasting together, something that would continue long after they were gone. Their children would carry on the ranch, and their children after them, each generation adding their own chapter to the story. But it had all started with one moment, one choice, one brave man riding into a river to save a drowning woman. Everything else had grown from that single act of courage and kindness. As Olivia fell asleep that night in the arms of the man she loved, the man who had offered her not just his name but his heart, his home, and his whole life, she sent up a quiet prayer of gratitude. For the river that had taken everything from her, for the cowboy who had given it all back and so much more, for the family they had created together, for every moment of the beautiful life they had shared. Outside, the Wyoming wind whispered through the grass, carrying with it the promise of tomorrow and all the tomorrows to come. The Rivers Ranch stood strong under the stars, a beacon of home and hope, just as it would for generations to come. And in the morning, there would be coffee to make, children to feed, horses to tend, cattle to check, and another day to spend building their life together. Another day of the quiet, profound happiness that came from choosing love, choosing partnership, choosing to build something meaningful with another person. Another day of being exactly where they belonged, together on the land they loved, living the life they had created from a chance meeting, a bold proposal, and two hearts brave enough to take a chance on each other. It was, Olivia thought as she drifted off to sleep, a very good life indeed. The best life, their life, and she would not change a single moment of it.